Yes, will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I do.
All right, we'll take a seat.
May it please the court?
All right. Yes.
Please state your name.
Jacqueline Forom,
And Ms. Fordham, where do you work?
the Cape Coral Police Department.
What are your duties at the Cape Coral Police Department?
I am the supervisor of the forensics and the evidence units.
That sounds really cool. What is that?
So I manage the forensics unit, which is our crime scene investigators, which also includes latent print examiners and digital forensics examiners. The evidence unit is the evidence storage area within the department for all items of property evidence, drugs, narcotics, and we maintain chain of custody within that area.
So you're in charge of any sort of like cell phones or a pickaxe or anything like that, they may come into evidence?
Eventually, once it gets into evidence, then it would be in a division that I supervise, yes.
And how long have you been with the Cape Coral Police Department?
I was hired into the forensics unit in March of 2007 and promoted to supervisor in May of 2021.
And what sort of training do you have or experience to be in the forensic unit?
I have a Bachelor's of Science degree in Criminal Justice Studies from Florida Gulf Coast University. I'm also a certified crime scene investigator through the International Association for Identification. And I'm also a certified digital forensics examiner through Cellbrite. Cellbrite is a world-renowned digital forensics software company who not only provides software, but also training for that software. In my 18 plus years, I've probably got several thousand hours of training in the classroom between crime scene investigation, digital forensics examinations and investigations, as well as advanced photography, latent print processing, lab processing, and then obviously as a supervisor, leadership roles in training.
What is forensics exactly?
It's kind of a broad stroke for the study of. It can be the study of, for me, crime scene investigation or digital forensics. You have forensic odontologists, which are dentists that study the teeth and for us relating to death investigations. You have forensic pathologists, which are your medical examiners that look over a body once it is deceased and determine cause of death or try to determine cause of death. So like I said, it's just a broad umbrella of certain niches within the scientific community.
Now you said something called digital forensics. What is that?
Digital forensics involves the study of or the examination of multimedia devices, cell phones, tablets, computers. It can also include internet investigations, social media investigations. So pretty much in our world, in my world, it's going to involve the examination and data extraction for digital devices. So your cell phones, computers, tablets, those kind of things.
So if I was to give you my cell phone, could you walk the jury through what you would do with my cell phone? May I approach?
Yeah.
And for the record, I'm giving the examiner a pink cell phone.
So once the cell phone comes into my custody, we would document chain of custody, whether that's from the owner of the device directly to me, or if somebody else has seized it either from a crime scene or from another person and is bringing it to the digital forensics lab. That paperwork is signed, they sign it, I sign it, and then our investigation begins. Cell phones, or any device really, are photographed before as they are. A lot of times we will remove the case, and that's because sometimes we have to get directly to the buttons or the ports that are there, and cases can inhibit that sometimes. But also people like to put things behind their case, their driver's license, money, things, mementos or something like that. So sometimes things are actually in there that either are important to the case, important to the owner of the item, or could potentially be dangerous to us, like baggies of drugs. So we'll remove the case, document anything that we see. Is it cracked? Is there something written on it? Is there a significant number, whether it's serial number, IMEI, make, model, those kind of things, as well as the color that we're dealing with.
Connor, may I approach now, since she's talking about a different part, and retrieve my phone and give her state's evidence 53?
Yes.
Do you recognize state's evidence 53?
Yes, I do.
And what is it?
It is a previously sealed Cape Coral Police Department evidence envelope that on it has my name, initial, and signature as well.
And with that particular bag, is there a cell phone that later became known to you as being owned by Christopher Davis, the defendant in this case?
Yes.
And what else is in that bag?
May I look? Thank you. So inside of this bag is the phone itself, as well as the case, which is actually a two-piece case.
Okay, if you could pull out the phone in the case, it's already been moved into evidence, this case 53. Now, you were saying to the jury that you would remove a case from the phone. Based on the phone that's in front of you, it has no case on it now, correct?
That is correct.
And with that particular phone, you said there was a case. Is there anything that is identifiable at the outside of the case?
Yes.
And what is identifiable?
There is what I would call an address sticker. Like you put on an envelope, it's got your address pre-printed on it. That is on the outside of the case.
You're under permission to approach.
You may.
The whole thing.
And this is the outside of this phone case?
Yes,
And this was the phone case that was attached to Mr. Davis's phone?
correct.
And with regards to this label, what does it say?
It's a little bit worn, but it says Mr. Barry Schmalbach, 1835 Beach Parkway, apartment 303. That area of the city and state is a little worn, and then 33904 for the zip code.
And this was where the cell phone actually was taken off the defendant, was at this address?
I believe it was collected from within the condo. I don't know that it was taken off of his person.
May I approach?
You may.
And the condo address that it was taken out of is the exact same condo address that's on the label, correct?
Yes.
And what type of phone goes to that particular phone case?
The phone case itself, I don't know. There's phone cases can fit multiple different makes and models of similar phones itself. So I can't specifically say that this case would only fit one type of phone.
What type of phone was it holding?
An iPhone 14 Pro Max.
And can you walk the jury through what you would do once you take that phone case off with that particular phone?
Yes. So again, it's all documented before we attach it to our forensic machine. The detectives generally will give us some information about the case or specifically what they're looking for, if it's known. We always ask if we have the passcode given to us, because it is very rare to get a phone into a digital forensics lab for a case that doesn't have a password on it. Most people have passwords on their phones. For this particular case, I was provided the password for the phone. It was correct, so I had opened it up and I had full access to the device. It is then connected to our forensic machine, which is in our digital forensics lab. They are off-network computers that only do digital forensics examinations. The software that we use, dependent on make, model, and version of the device that we're looking at, is opened up, and then it will try and connect to the device. Depending on security features and whatnot that are on the device, we may have to troubleshoot some issues. If not, then the next process is pretty seamless. The software will acknowledge the type of device. It will ask us again to put the passcode in case it needs to bypass any other security features within the operating system of the device. And then it will image the device bit for bit. So it will, if we have full access to it, which I did for this device. So it will go from the very beginning sector to the last sector and try and collect as much data as it can. That would include the normal type of data that everyone uses on their phones, text messages, phone calls, internet history, photos. But it's also going to look for any deleted data or any hidden files. It's going to collect application data from within applications, not just that are stored on the device. And that process can take however long it takes. It's generally a few hours to image an entire phone, especially larger devices like iPhones. And then once that is completed, we will then download that full data extraction. It's just one big giant file, and then load it into a software that will parse out that data. So it will make a package for us that clearly states, these are the text messages, these are the phone calls, here's the internet history, here's maps, so that we can more adequately search for exactly what we're looking for or narrow down the evidence that's presented to us.
So basically, you're making a book out of a cell phone.
A digital book, yes.
And what are the two softwares that you usually use for this particular program CCPD uses?
The main softwares that we use for cell phone data extraction is a software that's called GrayKey, and that again is an imaging software, and also Cellbrite, which I mentioned before is what my certification is. Cellbrite will also image the data, but it will also ingest other data from things like GrayKey and parse out that information for us.
And what's the difference between Cellbrite and GrayKey?
They're the same but different, if that makes sense. GrayKey predominantly puts most of its research behind Apple devices, iOS operating systems. Cellbrite has been around much, much longer. I believe we initially got certified in Cellbrite in 2010, 2011, and have had it ever since. So they do the same thing. They just have different corners of that field that they operate within, but they do talk to each other.
So they basically are holding hands, giving you a report.
Correct.
Now, with regards to those two programs, are they considered the better of the programs for cell phone downloads?
Yes.
And were you made aware of that cell phone being part of a missing persons case or homicide investigation?
Yes.
And with regards to that particular device, what did you do when you got it? You went through all those steps of plugging it in and getting an actual report out of it?
Yes.
And you received the device from a Casey Buckner?
Correct.
And she was the individual that just testified before you?
Yes.
Were there any other devices that you were given?
Yes.
And what other device were you given?
I was, prior to examining this iPhone 14 Pro Max, I was given 2 other iPhones from a different subject. I also was provided a iWatch that was collected during the time of the seizure of this device specifically.
And did you end up finding out that the other cell phones that you received were from an individual by the name of Miguel Blanco?
Yes.
And he wasn't a suspect in this particular case, was he?
Correct.
But you still did a download and researched what his phone had done to be able to extract messages, phone calls, information related to this particular matter.
Yes.
With regards to the watch that you received, can you describe that watch for the jury?
It's a black and silver Apple iWatch with a black band.
And may I have 1 moment? Your Honor, may I approach to receive State's Exhibit 39?
You may.
Your Honor, permission to publish State's Evidence 39B.
All right.
Is this the iWatch you were given?
Yes.
And are you aware of how an iWatch works?
Yes.
How does it work?
It can work independently or in sync with a cell phone. Typically, iWatch is going to go with an Apple iPhone. If they are synced together, data that's present on the watch will show on the phone and vice versa. You also can sync them together to the same iCloud account, which means data from the watch will additionally be backed up to the iCloud, as is with the phone itself. They also can work independently of each other. So if you have an open network payment plan and you're paying for your watch so that it can work independently of your device, meaning you don't have to carry that cell phone with you to have capabilities of your network connection to whoever your service provider is, you would have to pay an additional subscription fee. And then that means that even if you don't have the phone, the watch will still be able to connect to the network. It will be able to send out texts, receive calls, and then also have data backed up to the iCloud account that it's connected to.
In this particular case, were you able to ascertain based on cell phone records, which for the record would be States Exhibit 56 as well as 55, that the cell phone did in fact have a cell phone number attached to it? The
Yep.
iWatch, excuse me.
Yes,
And was that number 239-299-6184?
yes.
Now, the best way to explain it is if it's Wi-Fi or cellular, if it's working with a line. Is that accurate?
Well, they both would be cellular if they have independent phone numbers and the person is paying for that two separate lines. You're basically paying for two separate lines to be connected together.
So if you didn't have a cell phone plan, it would just bounce off of Wi-Fi.
If it was connected to the Wi-Fi,
And this particular watch was connected to a cell phone.
yes.
And the watch was also connected to an iCloud account, is that accurate?
Yes.
And was that iCloud account later became known to you as being Barry Schmalbach's?
Yes.
Were you able to ascertain what type of iPhone that it was connected to?
I believe Mr. Schmalbach's iPhone was an iPhone 12.
Do you remember getting information that it was an iPhone 13 Pro?
It's possible. I would have to specifically look at the records with these devices.
But you never received an actual phone from Barry Schmalbach, correct?
I did not.
There was a phone case that was found in the trash, correct?
I came to know that, yes.
But you never were able to recover, or nor were you handed Barry's iPhone 13 Pro.
No.
And the number for the phone was 708-341-0721?
Yes.
And you were able to review the cell phone records for that particular phone number?
Yes.
And were you also able to review the defendant's cell phone records in this case for 239-851-9567?
Yes.
Now, with regards to the watch itself, were you able to pull anything off of the watch?
I was able to review the data manually, but not connect it to a forensic machine like we would be able to with a cell phone.
Why is that?
There's no port on an iWatch to actually connect to that forensic machine like there is on the bottoms and sides of cell phones. So a logical extraction, which is what we call kind of what you see is what you get, would be all that would be possible with the physical device itself.
And when you were reviewing the iWatch itself, were you able to pull out any information from it?
Yes.
What were you able to pull out?
So doing a manual review, we do an overall inspection of the device, and then every screen that we go to is then photographed. So all of the data that was recovered from it is in a photograph of the screen of the iWatch. But there were calls present. You could see text messages. There was user information of who the iWatch belonged to, what the number assigned to it was, the serial number, as well as other applications that are on that device itself.
Did it actually give you biometric information, such as walking, steps, heart rate, anything like that?
It was very, very minimal what was able to be observed on the watch, and it wasn't in an area that I would expect it to find if I were to just take somebody's iWatch right now and go through it, in the biometrics that track your steps and how many flights you go up or how many calories you have. There was some recovered data within, I can't recall, but one of the very deep down in one of the apps, but it wasn't really significant to show recent activity.
And do you know why that may be?
I don't know.
So somebody could have deleted it, it couldn't have saved, it was never on?
Object to speculation. that she didn't know.
Your Honor, based on her training and experience, I can rephrase.
Okay, let's rephrase.
Based on your training and experience as doing digital forensics and being familiar with an Apple iWatch, are there a multitude of reasons why this information may not be available?
Yes.
And what are those reasons?
It could not be activated. Somebody could not use that specific app within the device to track anything. It could have been reset. It could have been deleted, or it just could never have existed in the first place.
And because you don't have a plugin, basically, you don't have that information.
I wouldn't have a way to recover it if it was recoverable.
In this particular case, were you able to review Barry's records as well, which would be his cell phone records, State's Exhibit 55? Permission to publish, Your Honor?
Okay.
Yes, I was.
And with regards to Barry's records, were you able to review kind of a timeline, the 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, etc.?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did you find out about the 19th of July, 2023?
There was limited data with regards to information being sent from the device after that date.
And when you say limited information, that's based off of what?
The call data records that were given to me.
That also includes text messages, data usage, anything that's going out of the phone. You're seeing nothing going out of it after this date?
Correct.
And you're only seeing, I guess, phone calls in or text messages in, correct?
Yes,
And you never were given Barry's iPhone.
I was not.
Were you made aware of Barry's iPhone ever being recovered?
I was not.
Were you able to tell that he was messaging certain people at like 7:06 p.m. on the 19th based on the phone records?
Yes.
And that he made his last call about 8:19 p.m. based on the phone records?
Yes, I believe that is the time.
Do you know what a ping is?
I do.
What is a ping?
A ping is what we refer to as a location of something happening on the device or where the device is located.
And was there a ping done on this particular phone?
Ever?
Yeah, on this one for the 19th through 24th date of July?
Yes, I believe that that coincides with the information from the 19th on as well, the location information.
And so with regards to the ping that was done after the 19th, there's no other information?
Yes, that's true.
And the last time any data usage was on this particular device, based on what you were able to ascertain on the phone records, was at 9:32 p.m. on the 19th of July?
Yes.
Now, do you see any sort of calls coming in that made you question what was going on between the 19th to the 24th, 25th?
Yes.
And what were those?
There was a change in pattern with regards to how the network was reporting out the data on the 19th and before, and then post the 19th.
So if I pull open States 55 and go to page, I guess I can pick any page. Let's just pick page 7 for mobility. Is the weird pattern you're talking about this section?
Yes.
So we see, for example, originating number, terminating numbers, kind of bouncing back and forth. What is the pattern that you're seeing over and over again?
So you'll see where it kind of has a break, and then you'll see 2 tracking notes, then a break, 3 tracking notes, then a break, 3 tracking notes. So if you look above that, they're all in line with each other. They're tracking through as if there's no interruption to what is happening during that time.
And what does this F mean?
Forward.
So what are these phone calls doing if somebody is calling into this number on the 23rd, for example?
They're being forwarded to a different line or a different account.
So could you say that they're bouncing between a watch, a cell phone, no one's answering, and then it's going to be forwarded to a different number?
Yes, more than likely forwarded to voicemail.
And that would be what this VM means, correct?
Yes,
So this is a multitude of calls that are coming to this number, and they're all being forwarded to a voicemail.
yes.
And that begins on what date?
It begins after the 19th.
So, earlier in the 19th, you actually see there's connections and phone calls that are going through.
Correct.
Later on is when you see the Fs.
That is correct.
And you said the last text was sent out about 8:30?
Yes,
So there were no texts sent from this cell phone number after 8:30
correct.
on the 19th?
Yes.
So if there was a text message purporting, based on your training and experience working with digital forensics, if there is a text message that is supposedly coming from this phone number, based on having the actual cell phone records, could that text message have been sent at 9 o'clock on the 19th?
Can you repeat that
Yes.
question?
Sorry, that was
Sorry.
confusing. So basically, because you have Barry's cell phone records, and you know that the last text that was sent from the cell phone record was at 8:30 p.m. on the 19th. If I, for example, was to text Barry's phone, it would show as today's date with a response. If he texted me back and it said Barry's phone was texting me and it said today's date on it, would it show on his records based on the information we have?
If you had the phone and you sent it, yes, it would show up on the records.
But there's nothing after 8:30 on the 19th.
Yes,
So any text messages that were sent and purported to be Barry's did not come from this phone number.
based on the call detail records, correct.
Okay. And were you able to also process the defendant's phone, which is states, I believe, 53, which is up with you? And you were able to run the software reports that you had mentioned?
Yes.
And what was the phone number associated with that particular device?
239, I can't recall.
It's okay. Were you able to look at cell phone records for that particular device as well?
Yes, from the device itself and records from the network provider.
And the network provider was AT&T, is that accurate?
Yes,
And this is the phone number that's associated with that particular device?
yes, it is.
239-851-9567?
Yes,
And that is an iPhone 14 Pro Max, is that accurate?
yes.
Was it synced to any sort of iWatch or any other device, that particular phone?
Not that I was able to ascertain.
And what did you use to do the software extraction on that?
The initial data extraction was done using GrayKey, and then that data extraction was loaded into Cellbrite and reviewed via Cellbrite.
And you said the Cellbrite is basically a report that's kind of like a book. It has the table of contents and you can go into each one.
Yes.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that I'm now showing opposing counsel what's been marked for identification purposes as state's proposed exhibit 40 as well as 40A.
You said 40 is a composite?
It would be 40 a composite and 40A a composite.
Okay.
If I can have a moment with opposing counsel as well.
You may.
Approach the witness.
You may.
I'm now showing you for identification purposes what's been previously marked as state's proposed exhibit 40, a composite, and 40A, a composite. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And those are part of a report that you were able to do on this particular phone, correct?
Yes.
And it's because the report is much larger, it would be very voluminous.
Yes.
Okay. And with regards to the software, are these, that report that was pulled out, are these fair and accurate depictions of what was ascertained from the cell phone when you pulled the information out?
Yes.
And that information helped you to be able to follow a timeline of what the defendant's next steps were?
Correct, based on the cell phone extraction.
And it gave you search histories?
Yes,
It also gave you text message histories?
it did.
And the text message histories assisted you with showing a pattern or type of behavior with regards to the sender or the recipient?
Yes.
And it gave you identifying information to be able to tell who may be sending those messages based on the actual language and punctuation used?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would move into evidence State's Exhibit 40A, a composite, and 40.
Any objection?
No.
Be admitted. Be admitted.
Thank you. And in this particular case, you said basically it's a book, so it gave you an outline of kind of events to follow, correct?
Yes.
And for the record, Your Honor, I'm going to be publishing 40. And just because many people have never seen this before, so I'm going to have you kind of walk me through what this is. So this is just your first page, correct?
Yes.
And what does this give you?
This is kind of like a table of contents. It's like who the author of the book is and what was done with it. So the top part is a summary. It's going to list the associated Cellbrite version number that it's running, because like any software, it's going to update, so it reports that out, as well as the date of the report creation and the time zone. Down at the bottom of that top part, you'll see my name as the examiner, and then Detective Bierman as the investigator. And then the notes section, if we're doing multiple data extractions, or it's an update, or there's many devices with a case, we'll put notes in there to specifically draw our attention to what it is for that. So in this case, this was the report created after the full review on August 5th, 2023. The second part, oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
The second section is the source extraction. So this is going, again, to go into more of the data and operating system of Cellbrite itself. And then at the bottom is device information, and that is the device that's being examined. So the iPhone 14 Pro Max, it's going to give any information it's able to extract. That could be IMEI numbers, serial numbers, assigned phone numbers. Has it ever been backed up? When was the last backup? Any users that are attached to that account, time zone, as well as other identifying numbers that reference either the make and model of the device or where it came from.
Okay, so you're able to find out that this device was assigned to a Christopher Davis, the phone number assigned to it, as well as any sort of email accounts or saved password accounts throughout it as well.
Yes.
And then you mentioned sometimes there's deleted items,
There can be.
and when it says deleted, is that stuff that you were able to recover?
Yes, that's what we classify as recovered deleted data.
Is there sometimes data that you're not able to recover?
Absolutely.
Does it tell you if there's data that you're not able to recover?
No.
Now, with regards to looking at July 19th, were you able to review his cell phone search history from this device, him being the defendant, Christopher Davis?
Yes.
And do you know what type of search engine he was using on the cell phone? for that?
Primarily Safari.
Okay, and what is Safari?
It's the internet search engine attached to Apple iPhones.
And are you actually able to pare down the report from certain dates? So you're not looking at 5 years of history, you're looking at just a specific set of history.
Yes, Cellbrite allows us to go in and do filters. You can filter by certain phone numbers, dates, times, You can search specific words or characters, and it will search either the section you're looking in or the entire download itself.
You downloaded the entire phone, but you specifically searched conversations between Mr. Schmalbach and the defendant or anything that happened during the time period in question.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to show you what is in page 40A composite, and it's labeled 281. Is this show a browser history for a search that was done on that particular phone?
Yes.
And what is the date of the search?
July 19th, 2023.
And the time?
The one you're pointing at is 9:21 p.m. and 49 seconds.
And then there's another one at 50.
Yes.
And what is the search for?
Walmart near me.
And is that the last search that is done by Mr. Davis on his phone before the 20th of July?
I'm not sure.
So if I gave you page 280, which has already been moved into evidence, we see that the next search he does is Powerball winning numbers. Is that accurate?
That's the last one in this report that was tagged, yes.
And it goes 280 to 281, so it would follow the fact that they're with each other?
Yes.
And this shows that he searched on July 20th at 2:06 a.m. the Powerball winning numbers.
I believe the one you're pointing to is not on the screen.
Oh, I apologize.
That's okay. Yes, 2:06 and 55 seconds a.m.
Okay. And then we start looking at Airbnbs at about 3:39.
Correct.
And do we continue looking at Airbnbs until about 4:05 that morning?
Yes.
And where do you remember the Airbnbs looking that he was searching for?
There were specific searches done for Lehigh Acres, Florida, Clewiston, Florida, Cape Coral, Florida, and I believe Bonita Springs, Florida as well.
And that was at that time, correct?
I don't remember if it was specifically, but during the device review, those areas were searched.
Okay. So for this particular day, for example, we see a multitude of pages showing different areas, all on Airbnb.
Yes.
And for the record, these are all in 40A, which is a composite ranging from page 273 to 279. And that stops approximately 4:05 a.m. that day?
Yes.
Airbnb, have you ever used one?
I have not.
Are you familiar what they are based on being in forensics?
Yes.
What are they?
They are rental properties, houses, condos, timeshares that an individual owns and rents out for short-term rentals.
And you're also able to see that he ended up calling Barry a few times as well because he gives you outgoing calls.
Yes.
But Barry never calls him back.
Correct.
In fact, Barry never responds to anything that Christopher sends him after the 19th at 8:30 p.m.
Yes.
And did he make any other calls that morning from his phone that you found to be interesting?
Yes.
And was that a phone call to Discover credit card?
Later, I determined that it was Discover credit card.
And I somehow misplaced it. 272, 269, 270. Okay, and that is this number at the bottom, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And what time was that call placed?
At 4:47 and 52 seconds a.m. on July 20th, 2023.
And were you part of a search warrant that was done on the property on July 24th, 2024?
Yes.
And you, being the forensic supervisor, have been able to review different photographs in this particular case with regards to items that were photographed or researched while in said condo, car, etc.
Yes.
One of them being a Black Hawk Discover card wallet.
Yes.
Or sorry, Discover card that was found in a wallet.
Yes.
And with this particular card, there's always a phone number on the back of the card, correct?
Yes.
And the card was found in Christopher's wallet, is that accurate?
That is my understanding.
And the phone number that he called was 1-800-347-2683, which corresponds to the same phone number on the back of this card.
It does.
And this card was for a Barry Schmalbach?
Yes.
And that particular call, do we know what the duration ends up being? Oh, probably help if I know that.
It's 2 minutes and 3 seconds.
So it was more than just a phone call and a hangout.
Yes.
And does anything else happen after the Discover call is made that spiked your curiosity?
Yes.
And what was that?
There were several other calls outgoing to what became known to me as Mr. Schmalbach's phone. And then multiple other text messages and conversations as well as internet history.
And one of the internet searches that was done was repairing a phone, correct? Or screen?
It was.
And it was done a few times, the first time being the 20th at 5:35 a.m. as well as the 20th at 5:35 a.m. too.
Yes.
And the next event we have is him searching Home Depot near me at 11 a.m. The 20th?
That's 8 a.m.
Oh, sorry, I apologize.
Yeah, 11 a.m. and 28 seconds.
And being part of forensics, you are aware that different video evidence was obtained in this particular case with regards to the actions of the defendant through the 19th through the 24th.
I am aware of that, yes.
And do the timestamps with regards to searches match up to the times that he was present on or about those particular establishments? For example, he's searching for Home Depot and then there's a video within a couple hours of that particular Home Depot.
Yes.
And when you, Christopher's phone was collected, as you have in front of you, there was no damage to the screen?
No.
And what you saw in States 39D, there was no damage to the iWatch screen?
There was not.
And for the record, that's 39D. And Barry's phone was never recovered, correct?
That's correct.
But a cell phone case was recovered in the trash on the 24th that matched Barry's, that would have fit Barry's iPhone.
I am aware of that, yes.
And you said that he did different searches. So we have him searching Lowe's at 8:13 a.m. Is that accurate?
Yes.
We have him doing more searches for multiple Airbnb rentals. And ultimately, he does a location search for the 138 Southeast 30th Street address. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And that was for an Airbnb condo?
Yes.
And that particular condo, not you, but Cape Coral was able to pull a video of that particular establishment with the defendant, that particular address, the defendant is seen going to, or somebody matching the defendant's description is seen going to in a video.
That's my understanding, yes.
And do you notice anything else that he does with regards to his search history on that date, the 20th?
Yes.
And what does he do?
There are several internet search histories and then conversations as well with regards to meeting up with somebody.
Do you also see a search history for something called Sniffies?
Yes.
What is Sniffies?
Sniffies, I came to learn, is an internet dating application.
And he actually uses that particular search multiple times throughout the 20th to the 24th when the search warrant is obtained, correct?
Yes.
And does it come to a time where he ends up doing searches for cabins in Bonita Springs, Ochopee, and Clewiston?
Yes.
Do you know what Ochopee or where Ochopee is?
I do not.
Do you know where Clewiston is?
I do.
Okay. And with regards to Clewiston, have you been out there before?
I have.
How would you describe Clewiston to someone who's never been there?
There's pretty much a main city center, lot for city shopping would occur. And then the outlying areas are mainly farmland, so very large, vast areas, long roads with minimal things on them, wide open spaces.
Have you ever been out to an area called Montura?
Yes.
And how would you describe Montura to the jury?
It kind of backs up to one of those large open areas of farmland. It's a semi-residential community within the Montoro classification, with houses dotting some roads that are paved, some that are dirt, some are way down on a dirt road, others are, a few on each one. But it's a smaller area within that larger area.
And did you end up finding out that he being the defendant, ended up booking an Airbnb out in Montura?
Yes.
And did you discover that based on him using the Airbnb app?
Yes, and conversations and emails with regards to it.
Okay. And one of the saved passwords he had on his phone was for a Tyler Gamble with a passcode that was attached and saved to the phone. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And that's one way that somebody could log into an account is by, especially with an iPhone, doing like a Face ID or punching in a passcode.
If you had the account holder's username and password for that specific application or a website, you could log in with that.
And in this particular case, it does appear that it was saved to the phone, the username and password.
Yes.
And then he ended up calling multiple 800 numbers on the night of the 20th after doing multiple Airbnb searches.
Yes.
And were you able to find out that those numbers are corresponding to financial institutions?
I was made aware of that, yes.
Now, what happened with his digital footprint the morning of July 21st?
There were more location data and traveling with regards to his movement on that date.
And he starts looking at places in Clewiston at 6 a.m.
Yes, it was very early in the morning.
And it actually goes through for about two hours or so.
I would say that's accurate.
And then he ends up searching for an Airbnb and McDonald's.
Yes,
Or sorry, a McDonald's search and then an Airbnb search again.
correct.
Now, when you do a Cellbrite download search, are you actually taking pictures and is it recording different things if there was like a location that was searched?
What do you mean by
Like, will it give you a map?
It could.
And are you aware of if the defendant was ever able to map out areas in Clewiston?
Yes.
So, you said there was a main drag in Clewiston. Is this what you were talking about?
Yes, I believe that is what you're pointing to is considered. It's Route 27.
And there's the Walmart in Clewiston.
Yes.
Now, are you made aware that there was a video obtained from the Walmart in Clewiston?
I was.
Were you also made aware that there was an Ace Hardware search in Clewiston made off the defendant's cell phone?
Yes.
And one of the images in the multitude is actually a picture just like this of an Ace Hardware and other places that the defendant searched within Clewiston.
Yes.
And beginning at about 8:02 on July 21st is when he starts looking at areas in Montura on his phone.
Yes.
And then at 9:13 on the 21st, it actually shows his phone being located in Montura.
Yes.
Does it ever show him doing a search for Devil's Garden Mud Club?
No.
And does he end up making another phone call at that point to a 1-800 number, which is another financial institution?
Yes.
And does it see him going to a strip mall that includes a Seacoast Bank?
Yes.
And you are aware there was a video that was obtained from Seacoast Bank in Clewiston.
I am.
And you see him also doing a search for Ace Hardware in Clewiston, as we stated before.
Yes.
Now, with regards to when he went to the Ace Hardware, he left approximately 11:30ish. Is that accurate, based on the video that was obtained from Ace Hardware by Cape Coral?
That's my understanding.
And when he left Ace Hardware, what, if anything, does his digital footprint show?
There's a few times or spaces of time where the data is very limited in regards to what I classify as user-created information. So phone calls, text messages, actual internet searches. You're still seeing information come through on the logs, but there's a drop-off in activity.
And what would that be indicative of?
It could be several things. It could be putting the device in airplane mode. It could be a loss of signal or partial loss of signal. It could be an interruption with the service to the device itself.
Or it could be turning the phone off itself.
Turning the phone off, you wouldn't necessarily actually see activity because the phone wouldn't be doing anything. But I don't know that it would be impossible for that to show.
So for a 3-hour period from approximately noon to 3 p.m. that day, we don't see any calls going out of Christopher's phone?
That's correct.
We see him answering any calls into his phone?
I don't believe so.
Do you see any texts going out of his phone?
No.
Do you see any texts coming into his phone that he reads?
No.
Do you see him using any sort of search engines or Safari websites during this time?
Not that would be user created.
And you end up seeing him ending up being closer to the Airbnb he rented in Montura when the phone starts not showing data. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And then when it picks up, it's actually at the 1000 block of West Sugarland Road in Clewiston.
Right.
And then is there another time that his phone records end up kind of going a little less with user data?
Yes.
And what time would that be?
The evening of the 21st into the 22nd.
And that would be approximately 6:15 p.m. until 11 a.m.?
Correct.
And what, if anything, does that indicate to you based on your training experience with digital forensics?
Again, the phone could be placed in airplane mode where it's not receiving information from a network service provider. Could be a loss of signal, could be a bad connection, or it's just not being used.
Did the record show you that he was able to search anything during that time period?
Yes.
And what were you able to ascertain that he was searching?
There were internet searches for television providers. I believe Hulu was one. I believe Paramount was another one, as well as passwords or how to log into certain ones, as well as pornography websites.
And was he also searching for security cameras called Blink?
Yes,
And was there a search for the weather too?
there was.
And does he try to call and text Barry?
No.
And he talked to anyone the next day the next morning, I should say, that you recall?
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you remember a phone number that you later became known as Miguel's when you did Miguel's download search with a back and forth text chain?
Yes, I
between
do.
him and the defendant?
Yes.
And based on that information, that started about 11:48 a.m.
Yes.
And he calls an LCSO number at 12:29 p.m.
He does.
And then he does not call Cape Coral Police Department until 13:19.
That is correct.
And that would be about a 24-minute difference between when he calls LCSO and when he calls CCPD.
Yes.
And those are the non-emergency numbers that you've been made aware that there was a call received by Samantha Drake, who is one of your dispatchers.
Yes.
And when you see that him and Miguel are communicating, do you see that his location at that time is at the condo address of 1835 Beach?
It is.
And there's over about an hour lapse before he contacts the LCSO, correct?
From the time that Mr. Blanco provided him the phone number to the call, about an hour passes.
And are you aware if he does any searches for different places within Cape Coral at that time?
He does.
And what does he search for?
I believe he searches for an Ace hardware store or hardware store near me.
And did you end up finding any video that you've been made aware of a Ace Hardware or any hardware stores where video was collected?
I am aware.
And that was prior to the defendant making a phone call to Cape Coral, non-emergency, or Lee County Sheriff's Office non-emergency based on timestamps?
The search was, yeah.
And were you able to find out if what he did after he called the Cape Coral non-emergency number?
I don't recall.
Do you recall if he was doing online reviews for Airbnbs?
He did at some point on the 22nd, yes.
After the report, after he calls the non-emergency number for Cape Coral Police Department, does he ever try to contact Barry's phone number again?
No.
So no text messages to Barry's phone number?
Correct.
No cell phone calls to Barry's number?
Correct.
Nothing at all?
That's my understanding, yes.
And when you look at Barry's cell phone records, which you were able to look at, do you see other people calling into Barry?
Yes,
You see other people texting into Barry,
I do.
but not the defendant?
Correct.
Now, moving your attention to July 23rd, what is he searching for that interests you at this point?
There's multiple searches, again, for pornography, websites, sniffies, as well as communication with regards to meeting up with people.
And on July 23rd, does he start looking at safes?
Yes.
And do you remember what type of safe he was looking for?
Sentry safe?
And when you entered into the apartment, or the condo, excuse me, were you able to find any sentry safes?
We did.
And what did you do with regards to the sentry safe?
They were seized during the search warrant and transported back to Cape Coral Police Department.
You may have 1 moment.
Okay.
Okay, I am showing you page 156 of State's Composite 40A. So we see a search at 3:35 p.m. on that date to Sniffies. That's the dating app,
Correct.
and that was on Christopher's phone.
Yes.
And then you see at 3:49 p.m. how to reset Sentry Safe code.
Correct.
And Sentry Safe is the same type of safe that Barry owned that was in the apartment.
It is.
And did you end up finding out that he had purchased a Sentry Safe himself from Home Depot?
I was made aware of that.
And then he does another search a couple of milliseconds later on the same date. And then we see another search at 3:52. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Then there's another search at 4:07. And what was that search for?
How to find a Sentry Safe's factory code and reset the combo.
You know how to reset a safe combo?
I know how to reset the safe combo on my safe, but not every safe.
Do you know how you would do it on a Sentry safe?
I don't.
With regards to safes, if somebody is trying to get into a safe based on your knowledge and training and experience, what have you seen for somebody trying to break into a safe?
I can say from my experience and the amount of safes that we've taken from search warrants and crime scenes that we've never been able to bypass the lock. We've had to physically break it open to either open the safe itself or ascertain what's inside of it.
So when you say physically break it open, it could be something as simple as trying to get the actual panel off of a safe and reset something.
Yes.
And then we see more searches for safes, and we see it at Home Depot. We see a 1.2 cubic feet fireproof and waterproof safe with digital combination lock with an actual SKU information at Home Depot. We see Walmart. We see a Sentry safe search at Walmart.
Well, Jacqueline, is there a question?
Are those the searches that you see?
Yes.
And he repeatedly searches Sentry safe near me.
Yes, and variations of that.
Were you able to find out that he actually called a phone number for Sentry safe as well?
Yes, I was later made aware of that.
With regards to July 24th, were you able to follow a digital footprint with July 24th on the defendant's phone?
Yes.
And what is he doing on July 24th?
Again, there's some pornography sites as well as searching up different salons in the area.
When you say different salons, what do you mean?
Nail salons as well as aesthetic beauty salons.
And your Honor, may I have one moment?
You may.
Is he also doing searches for missing man or people missing in Cape Coral?
He does.
So when you say he was doing searches for salons, you're talking about multiple searches for Anna Therese Aesthetic Medicine?
Yes.
And he does that multiple times that day, correct?
Correct.
For example, we have it at 7:17 a.m. and then it continues on, correct?
Yes.
Does he end up doing a search for a nail salon as well?
He does.
And later that day, his phone is seized by Cape Coral Police Department
It is.
and a search warrant is done and conducted.
Yes.
And this phone had no crack, screen, or damage to it.
The back of it has a surface scratch, but the screen itself is intact.
And none of the devices that you found or that were confiscated from 1835 Beach Parkway, Unit 303, had a cracked screen or a damaged screen.
None of them did.
Now, we previously discussed text messages that went back and forth and being able to pull out text messages too. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And with the multitude of text messages, did you notice a pattern or anything that was interesting?
Yes.
And what did you notice?
On and after, well, after the 19th of July, a pattern of punctuation was noticed with regards to text messages on the defendant's phone.
And when you searched for and looked through text messages, were you able to look through ones as prior as May?
Yes.
And you actually were able to find some in June.
Correct.
Your Honor, I'm posting page 438. And it says, okay. And who's in green?
This would be from the defendant's phone, so green would be Christopher Davis's phone.
And then we see a phone number of 3410721, and it says Barry. Is that Barry's phone number?
It is,
And you know this because you've looked at the actual phone records.
correct.
And Chris says okay, correct?
Yes.
As in okay. He doesn't actually spell out the word okay.
He does not.
And Barry responds, I've bent over backwards for you and you cause drama, space, period.
Correct,
I want drama free. If you can't do it, then it's over, space, period.
correct,
I love you, but I am not in this for your drama, with no punctuation.
correct.
Should there be commas somewhere in that sentence, maybe?
Object. Outside her scope of expertise.
May I respond?
All right,
Or I can rephrase.
rephrase.
Have you taken an English class throughout your life?
Yes,
And when you took an English class in high school, was one of the things they went through was how to prevent run-on sentences.
yes,
Based on your search of the text messages between the defendant and Barry, would you characterize Barry's conversations with Chris as sometimes having run-on sentences?
yes,
Does Barry, through all the messages you were able to review, ever use commas?
no.
Does Christopher use commas?
I don't know if they've, I'll take that back. I don't know that Barry ever didn't use commas, but his preferred method of punctuation based on the information that I reviewed was space, period, space.
And then we have another message, and it looks like this is 6:15 as well.
Yes,
And this would be from Christopher's phone, correct?
it is.
And it says, can you read that, or do you need me to?
I can read it.
Okay. What does that say?
It's, thank you. It says, I love you more than anything in this world, comma, and it feels like you're ripping my heart out right now, comma, but you're not gonna threaten to leave me anymore, Barry. I love you.
And what was Barry's response?
It's your insecurities and paranoia that will destroy us. Space, period, space.
And then we see another message from Barry on 6:15 at approximately 7:26. This is the month prior, correct?
It is.
And what does this message say?
It says, do what you want, space, period, space. I cannot do drama, space, period.
And so as you were reviewing text messages between Barry and Christopher, are there a lot of text messages about drama, insecurities, with regards to Barry responding to Christopher?
Yes.
For example, there's one that says, I can't do this anymore either, get on board or leave the ship, space, period.
Correct.
Now, with regards to a text message that was sent on 6/23/2023, this is Barry, correct?
Yes, it is.
And would you say that this okay is consistent with other messages from Barry that you've reviewed?
Yes.
He never spells out okay as okay, does he?
I did not observe that.
It's always spelled out O-K-A-Y.
Yes.
Who does spell out okay as okay?
Christopher Davis.
And at any point, does Christopher Davis ever actually spell out O-K-A-Y on any of the text messages you were able to review that were from his phone?
No.
So he always uses okay.
From the information I reviewed.
And this is just another message about insecurities and jealousies with punctuation being space, period, space.
That is correct.
And there's multiple times where we see Barry saying okay and Chris saying okay, and they're both spelled differently.
That is correct.
Now, we do see a text message, and this is on, what date is that?
June 22nd, 2023.
And approximately what time?
It was 10:11:44 p.m.
And it says UTC, so it may be 4 hours behind.
UTC -4 would be accurate to the time of 10/11/43.
So this particular message, what does it say?
The top one?
I apologize, the bottom one.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you block me, I will just call you from a different number.
Are you familiar with VIOPs?
Yes.
And what are VIOPs?
VOIP stands for Voice over Internet Protocol, and it can be used, or it's designed to allow a user to have a phone number attached to a device that may or may not generally have a phone number, so like your computer or a tablet, and you can activate, deactivate. Generally, it's pretty random. A lot of social applications also use them. They can be used to have different accounts or have to hide identity, but they're easily accessible. If you just search it on the internet, you can get them.
And I think you stated that the message about an Italian dinner came from a VIOP. Is that accurate?
That was made aware to me after the download.
And then we see Christopher again saying, okay, and this is on 7/17 at 11:03. And then we see Barry responding back, can't you track me on your phone? Space, period, space. I swear I feel like I am being watched.
That is correct.
And that was sent on 7/17/2023?
Yes, at 11:03 a.m.
And that was 2 days prior to the victim ever being seen or heard from again?
Yes.
And you said that Chris was actually sending messages back and forth with someone, is that accurate?
Yes,
And this in green is Christopher's phone, correct?
it is.
And this shows a timestamp of 7/19/2023 at 10:50 p.m.
Yes.
And that would be accurate Eastern Standard Time?
Yes, it would.
And this particular screenshot is him responding to a text at 10:49, correct?
Yes.
So instantaneously at 10:50, he is responding to this text with what appears to be a picture of himself?
Yes.
So, are you able to send pictures of yourself when you are asleep? Based on your knowledge of how cell phones work?
No.
Okay. Your Honor, may I have one moment? No further questions for this witness.
All right. Is everybody in the jury doing okay? Okay.
Let me ask you, there were some searches that dealt with, I guess, tablet or iPhone repair places,
Yes.
something of that sort. You would agree with me, places of that nature, they also can replace batteries?
Usually, yes.
Okay, so if the phone screen's not cracked or damaged, there's other things they could still do, maybe?
Depending on the make and model of the device itself, yes.
And then earlier in looking at the phone records, there were a couple areas where it indicated the call got forwarded.
Yes.
And so I guess if it goes to voicemail, is that your understanding it's going to show it got forwarded from the phone to a voicemail?
Yes.
And then if somebody purposely went in and told their phone to forward the calls, and it would show maybe the call coming to the phone and then that forward thing to some other number?
If somebody set that up on their device to forward to another number, then yes.
Okay. All right. And then we've seen a number of the different messages and things on there dating back as far as June. Were you aware in the investigation of Chris's concerns that, I guess, Barry was seeing other men?
I was made aware of that information after the investigation, but I was not part of finding that information out.
Did you have anything to do with searches on Grindr or this Sniffy's website?
Objection, Your Honor. With regards to Barry, she's already stated she has no knowledge of that.
Oh, I'll let you answer the question if you can.
I never got Mr. Schmalbach's phone, so I don't know what his internet activity was with regards to those two applications you mentioned.
Do you know if the investigation, if there were ever records, I guess, that were obtained from Grindr or the Sniffies thing?
I do not.
Okay. All right, and then, let's see, it came up at one point about Tyler's name being in there.
Correct.
Is that- And then, did you become aware Tyler Gamble is the brother of the defendant?
I was made aware of that.
Okay, and then, did you ever learn his mother's name is Dana Gamble?
I wouldn't have known that if you had asked me what her name was, but I'm sure during the investigation I was aware of it.
Okay. So Tyler wasn't like some made-up name by the defendant, it was his actual brother?
That is my understanding.
Okay. All right, and then you mentioned about periods where a phone, I guess, can show some activity, but it's not in the records, I guess, because one, you either turned it off, or maybe the battery died, or you lost signal?
Variations of what you just surmised.
Okay, so you, as you said before, Montura and Clewiston, that's a more rural area than, say, Fort Myers?
Yes.
Is it possible there's more gaps in cell coverage out there than there would be here in Lee County?
I don't know what the coverage is out there, sir.
Okay. But when you meant loss of signal, would that be akin to kind of like when you're, I don't know, you lose service and a call drops?
Correct. That's what I would refer to as a loss of signal.
Okay. Maybe you're too far from one cell tower and you're not close enough to the next one?
That's a possibility.
Okay. And then that you said before could be a reason why there's a gap in some of the periods, I guess.
Well, just,
There was mention of like the 3-hour period where there wasn't any data, and you said loss of signal could be a explanation.
it could, but just because a device has signal loss doesn't mean it wouldn't be tracking activity on the device itself. The cell phone is a walking computer, basically. So even if you're not doing anything with the device and it's just sitting on a table, it's still having activity in the background that is traceable, whether it's from the network carrier or from the actual physical device itself.
Okay, and then if it's shut off or the battery dies, then it's still not going to record things, or it is?
It wouldn't record or show that activity while it's turned off, but once the device is turned back on, all of the applications and information and connection is going to try and figure out what to do next, as computers do when you turn them on. So it may recover information that was either updated or changed within that digital world while the phone was off, and then just show it on the device once it's turned on.
Okay, and then just for your procedure with the phones, do you make a clone of the phone?
So the imaging of the device is what is done using either Gray Key or Cellbrite. So it does that image, and then we work from that image. So we don't clone the device in that we make a physical duplication of that device, like, and have two phones. We duplicate the data that's within that device.
Okay, so you take all the data and then place it in its own hard drive or something?
Correct. It's on our digital forensic server.
Okay, and then you make the Celebrite report from that data?
That's correct.
Okay. And then within that Celebrite report, you can go to specific areas, the text, photos, emails, different areas?
That's correct.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
All right. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, you may step down.
Thank you. The state would release this witness and excuse.
Any objection? All right, you may step down and you're released. They'll collect the evidence or the bailiff will and give it to the clerk. So ladies and gentlemen, it's almost 3 o'clock right now. It's a good time to take our afternoon break. So I'll have you come back at 10 minutes after 3 o'clock.